Hello. So at the end of my first semester as a doctoral student, I was on academic probation. And I had to do a lot of work to overcome the shame of that, the guilt of that, and to actually get myself off of academic probation as a whole doctoral student. And there are some things that I wish I just would have known about that experience. So if that sounds of interest, please keep on listening and watching as you come in. Let me know, say hi. But yeah, I finished my first semester on academic probation. Most people would be surprised to know that about me, that I was on academic probation, and it wasn't because I couldn't do the work. I just didn't know what to expect as somebody who's a first generation student, meaning I'm the first one really in my family to get a 4-year degree, first one to make it all the way to a PhD process. I had no idea what I was doing. But I started the year doing what everybody tells you to do. They tell you to get a planner, right? They tell you to get all your books. They tell you to list all of your assignments. I did that. I went to class. I went to every class. I read all the things. I read it multiple times. I took detailed notes. I looked at the assignments, and I still ended that semester on academic probation. And I was confused because I was like, this must be a sign that I'm not meant to be a doctor, because I did everything that everyone told me to do, and yet it's still not working out. There are 3 things that I'm going to tell you thought-wise that I wish I would have known, and then I have an actual list of 10 things that are really tangible that you could take with you. So as far as thought-wise, first of all, nobody knows what they're doing in the doc program. The faculty don't know what they're doing. We're all humans just making it up. And I wish I would have known that, because a lot of the reason why I was on academic probation that first semester is I was dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome. And many of you tell me that imposter syndrome is the reason why you're having a hard time making the type of progress that you want to make. My first semester, I felt like a full imposter. I was in a new state, in a new city that I'd never been in. I had no family. I had no one around me. It was my first time being at a large public institution like the University of Georgia. My undergrad only had 1,600 undergrad students. And now I'm at a school with over 30,000 of them. Confusion, right? And I was just doing what I knew, but I just felt like I didn't belong. And that would make it hard for me to show up in class. It would make it hard for me to I would overthink every time I wanted to raise my hand or answer a question. And you know that grad classes, especially doctoral classes, all you're doing is talking the entire time. It's not really a lot of assignments. You're just talking, but I was in my head a lot. But I wish I would have known that nobody knows what they're doing and everyone feels like an imposter. And it wasn't just me. It wasn't that I was broken or something was wrong with me. Number 2, I wish they would have said that everybody is bad at writing in the beginning. No one knows how to write in an academic way. No one comes into the doctoral program being like, I'm really good at writing. Everybody's going to have some stuff that they need to work on, because to write in an academic way is not how we're taught in a master's program or an undergrad program, and definitely not high school. It's a different type of writing. So it requires a different level of skills. And then the third thing thought-wise that I wish I would have known is that the academia is all about your relationships. You think it's about what you know. You think it's about what you publish and whatnot. It is about other people's perceptions of you. Now, we can argue if that should be the case or not, but I'm telling you, if you want to navigate this, if you're going to have a long-term career in academia, you are going to be doing more managing people's perceptions of you than it is about the actual work and scholarship. Now, if anytime you got questions, anything resonates with you, please let me know in this chat, because y'all know I don't like talking to myself. And I know this is a little bit different of a topic that I normally do, but I've been getting a lot of questions from first-time doc students, and I want to make sure that I'm helping. But if you have questions, let me know. You can put it in the question box. Okay, if you want to know something more tangible other than those thought things, here are some things that are tangible, and they're not in any particular order. Number 1, stop reading everything. Stop reading everything. I don't care if you're in your first year of the program. I don't care if you're preparing for your exams. I don't care if you're writing your literature review for your dissertation. Please stop reading everything. Your brain, the human brain, cannot take all that information in. And I don't care how good your notes are, how detailed they are, how many stickies you use and markers, you're still not going to be able to retain it how you think. It is a better use of your time, especially if this is about preparing for a class or preparing for your exam. It's a better use of your time. Let's say you got assigned 7 readings for the week. It's better to decide, okay, what are the 2 to 4 readings I'm going to focus on? That's where you go get your highlighters and your markers and you make your notes. You're not going to do that for all 7 readings. You're going to choose the ones that you're like, okay, these 2 or these 3 are going to be the ones that I'm going to really know. And these are going to be my go-to readings for when I need to participate in class discussion. The other 4 or whatever, you skim them, which is my tip number 2. You skim. We need to learn the art of skimming. You think people are up here reading every word? Absolutely not. The brain can't do that. When I'm saying skim, here's what I mean, especially if you're writing a literature review. Listen, skimming is you're going to read the abstract, because the abstract is going to tell you the bulk of the information. Abstract. If you're reading like a chapter or something and there isn't an abstract, read the introduction. Don't read the entire thing. You're going to read the introduction, those 1 or 2 paragraphs that says, in this chapter, we are going to discuss this and this and this and this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. Read the introduction. Read the headlines, or like the what is the word I'm looking for, y'all? Help me. The headings. Read the headings. If you're like, oh, this section might seem like it's important, just read the introduction and the conclusion of that section. So let me back up. The reason why academic writing is so hard is because it's asking you to write in a way where every time you go to write a chapter or a section of your literature review, what you're supposed to do is say, in this chapter, in this section, in this manuscript, I'm going to tell you about XYZ. And then you're going to be like, here's X, here's Y, here's Z. In the conclusion, you're going to say, I told you about XYZ. So academic writing comes down to tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them. That is not a natural way of communicating. We are not taught to write in that way when we're in high school or undergrad. So when you're getting the feedback of your writing isn't up to standard, what they're saying to you is you need to say things like, this is what I'm going to cover it. This is what I covered. So me telling you to skim the chapter, the book, the manuscript is because that is how people are writing. So you don't need to read every single word. You most likely just need to read the introduction and the conclusion. Why? Because the introduction and the conclusion are going to say, this is what I told you. This is the main points. And you only need the main points in order to contribute to discussion and to write about it. Right? So thank y'all for commenting. If you're coming in, say, hey, let me know if anything resonates with you, if you have questions. High school students need this. They have no clue about post-secondary life at all. I didn't have no clue. Nobody told me nothing. I had a whole master's degree going into the PhD process. I was like, nobody told me nothing. Nobody prepared. I even took doc courses because I thought it was going to prepare me, and I was not prepared. So number 1 and number 2 is no point to read all the things. Choose the 2 or 3 things that you're going to focus on. And for everything else, you skim it by reading the abstract, the introduction, the headers, in the conclusion. Number 3, because again, these are not in order. Number 3, you should definitely meet or communicate with your advisor at least once a month. It does not matter if you're in coursework. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of your exams. You need to meet with your person. Why? Because what did I say earlier? This process, academia, is all about the quality of your relationships, and is all about people's perceptions of you. For those of you who are going to go on to tenure track positions, how you get tenure, now I can say this because I ain't nobody's school. Quiet as it's kept. The way you get tenure is your colleagues in the college, their perception of you and your work. You can have all the amazing grants and whatnot, but if people don't think highly of your work, you're going to have a hard time getting tenure. I wish it was different, but it's not. The reality is people judge your performance based on their perceptions of you. Now, I know we can't control other people's perceptions of us. Like, we can't go into somebody's mind and be like, you should think of me like this. But there are some things that you can do to show that I'm a colleague. I really care about this work. It's really important to me. And how you get started in developing those skills is, as a student, you learn to meet with your advisor and then your chair at least once a month. what you're going to do. Because if I was telling myself this as a first year student, I'd be cussing me out right now, because I don't like talking to people, and I don't like performing and trying to pretend like, I don't like playing the politic game. But what I know now is I would have met with my advisor at least once a month, and I would have told them like, hey girl, this is what's going on in class, this is what I'm learning about, this is what I'm really excited about, this is what I'm thinking as far as my dissertation topic. I know it's like 3 years away, but this is what I'm thinking, and I'm really excited for this event. It doesn't matter. I would have chosen one thing to talk to my advisor about. I would have had an attitude. I wouldn't have wanted to do it, but I understand that we have to manage other people's expectations of us. This is a part of teaching people how to treat you. So Dr. Henry just came on here. She's starting as a tenure track. My advice to her was to start managing your relationships early. Start talking to people, making sure they can put a face with a name, making sure they understand what it is that you do and what you are passionate about. Why? Because she's going to go up for tenure. Like her first check is going to be her 3rd year review. And then at the 5th year, right, she's going to go up for tenure. But tenure begins now as she's being onboarded as a new faculty, because it's about your relationships. That same is true for doc students, and I just wish somebody would have told me that, because a lot of the reason why I ended up on academic probation at first semester was because I didn't know to manage the perception or relationships. It was probably like midterms that the director of the PhD program came to me and was like, we made a mistake in admitting you. We don't think you can handle it. You don't even come to class. You don't talk. You don't listen to when other people talk. My grade in 2 of the 3 courses that semester, it wasn't because I couldn't do the work. They even said to me, we know you know the work. We know that you've been doing the reading, but you're not, you don't seem like you're with it. You don't seem like you care. So we had to mark you down. It reminds me as a master's student that I had a practicum experience in like student conduct. If any student affairs people are here, hey. But I remember that the person who was grading me for that practicum was like, you did great, you were amazing, but just some days you just look like you don't want to be here. What she was talking about was my resting bitch face. And she wouldn't give me all 5s because I didn't smile enough. Y'all, do y'all hear what I'm saying? People are not judging you off of what you know and what you can contribute. The first thing people are judging you off of is like their perception. I'm not telling you to perform. I hope this is coming clear that I don't want you to be somebody that you're not. I'm trying to explain to you the system. We're not having a conversation about if it should be that way. I am saying to you that people are judging you based off of their perception of you. And this is why I talk so much to clients about, we manage up. We manage our advisors. We manage our chairs. Why? Because most of the key decisions about you and your future comes down to people's perceptions of you. But if I know you as someone who like shows up and who's communicating with me, I know I can look forward to at least a meeting or an email from you once a month telling me what's going on with you and any questions that you have. Then my perception is, oh, okay. Like you're somebody I want to work with. You're somebody who I can trust. It is gross. It is gross. I think academia overall, like that's why we're going to burn it down and create a new system in my brain, but we're not there, right? I'm just saying, if you have questions, let me know. Thank you, Chris. Keep on writing. Is the rest of the group writing with you? Because right now the Finish Your Dissertation program are doing co-writing sessions and I just came over here. Okay, this is my struggle. I try to read everything thinking I'm going to miss something. You're not going to miss it. I promise. You're not going to miss it. These are some life nuggets. The sooner you understand this. The sooner you understand it, the easier to maneuver. Yes. So that was number 3. Thank y'all so much for commenting. Number 4, have a schedule. I get that people are telling you, or maybe you got the message of like, oh, you're in a doc program. You got to be serious. There's no more time for fun. You can't go hang out with your friends. You can't go travel. You must be serious about this program. Lies. That's a lie. You're a human who have needs. Basic needs are like, we need to connect with other people. We are not meant to just lock ourselves away for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, however long your program is, and just focus on that one thing. That's the quickest way to burning yourself out to a 72-hour hold and then eventually a slippery sock vacation. Now, sometimes some people may want a slippery sock vacation. If you don't know what a slippery sock vacation is or a grippy sock vacation, don't worry about it. Okay, it's not for you. But we don't need to go there because you tried to put your life on hold to be in somebody's doc program. Have a schedule. What I ask clients to do is to have a 10-hour schedule. Your brain is going to probably say, that's a lot, unless you have a lot of life going on, and you might be like, no, you might say that, yeah, you might not say it's not enough, but most people will tell me like, okay, it's just right once they start following it. This 10-hour schedule is your boundary to yourself. You need to have boundaries with yourself. The 10 hours says these are the 10 hours every week that I am going to devote to doctorate type things. Because if you're not doing a dissertation, it may not be the dissertation. But 10 hours. And this 10 hours, I need to read all my things. I need to complete the assignments. And I need to do whatever else that will help me to show up to the class and perform. If your brain is like, well, if I only have 10 hours, I'm going to need more than that. Do you need more, or do you need to learn how to use your time? Because if you only have 10 hours a week, you know what's going to force you to do? Start working on things early. And how we teach it inside of Qual Scholars is that you make a plan for the laziest version of you. I'm using this word on purpose. I rarely use the word lazy. But when you make a plan for your week, you do it for the lazy version of you. Why do you do it for the lazy version of you? Because most people, when they're making a plan, you're doing it on a Sunday or a Monday after a weekend of rest and binge watching TV and TikTok for 4 hours. You feeling good. You're recharged for the most part. And then you're going to make this very ambitious, aggressive plan. And then you're going to get to Friday. Friday you don't feel like Sunday you. Friday you is like, I want to quit this program. Okay, I don't need a degree. I could go, I was like, I could work at Trader Joe's. I don't need this. So how can you make a plan for your week that yourself on Friday would be able to easily do? So how we make a plan is like, okay, what is the one goal for the month? So let's say for you have a paper that's due at the end of August or the end of September, depending on when your semester started. If you know it's due, let's say on September 10th, and it's, August 21st, okay, how do you start splitting up your 10 hours for this week to get started on that paper? And how we plan is you must, whenever you write down a task that you're going to do for the week, it must communicate a result that you're going to produce. Right, so you couldn't say something to me like, oh, I'm going to work on that paper that's due on September, because you on Friday who's tired and ready to quit doesn't know what it means to work on that paper. They don't know what that means. But if you say something like, I'm going to read the syllabus and map out or understand, either read the rubric for the assignment or make my own rubric for the assignment, and that's the only thing I'm going to do. Well, you on Friday can see oh, I need to do X, Y, Z. That was kind of a bad example, but go with me, right? Or you might say, I'm going to write my introduction for that paper. My introduction is going to include 3 paragraphs. So I'm going to write 3 shitty paragraphs for the introduction. You see how on Friday, when you're tired and you feel like, oh, I said I was going to do this, you don't have to get all this, you don't have to spend time getting yourself together. You can look at your plan and it says you're going to write 3 shitty paragraphs for the introduction. But what I see so many people do is I'm going to work on the reading for this class, and I'm going to work on this project for this class. And that makes sense to you in the moment when you're making your plan. But then on Saturday morning, when you lugged all your stuff in your book bag and you're going to the library and you tell all these people to meet you and you do all this stuff, you got your headphones, you got your snacks, you sit at your favorite table, and now you're like, what do I do? Oh, let me go read. Let me read the syllabus. Oh, let me go see if somebody else has done this assignment before. Let me go look up some things. Now you're down a rabbit hole. 3 hours has passed and you're no closer to finish or starting your paper, but you spent 3 hours in the library. So I guess it can count as you being productive. You see where I'm going? I didn't went down a whole road and I made up a whole story, but I hope this is making sense. Okay, what's a slippery sock vacation? It's when you get admitted into a hospital, an inpatient treatment facility, and you are held against, I wouldn't say against your will, but you're held in order to protect yourself and to protect other people around you, and you got to stay there for a few months until you work through your treatment plan. So on TikTok, they call it a grippy sock vacation. I was just being a little silly. Am I wrong for wanting to achieve multiple masters before attempting a doctorate? I just don't think I would be taken seriously in the field I want to study and teach in. Tell me, the one who believes, tell me, what is the field? What's the field of study? And that's one question. The second question for you is, I realize I'm answering your question with a question, but the second question to you is, what if people would take you seriously right now? How do you know if someone is taking you seriously or not? How do you know if you're taken seriously? Like, what are the signs we would be looking for to know if you're being taken seriously? These are important questions for anybody on this live. Yours might not be about if you should get the multiple masters before a doctorate, but anything that you're thinking about, how do you know if you're doing it? How do you know if you're being a good student? How do you know if you're making progress? How do you, what are the things we're looking for? So medieval studies. Okay, I feel this is an intuitive thing, so I'm gonna just go here. If I was to ask you to talk about your favorite topic within the medieval umbrella, if you could do that for 2 hours, could you do that? If I was to ask you to make a TikTok account and just talk to people about different theories and whatnot, could you do that? So tell me about your long-term goal, and then that'll help you to know if you should do a doctorate. Because if you don't have a long-term goal of being in academia, and you can freely talk about topics now, why do you need the master's or the doctorate? If your goal is something like, well, I want to teach, or I don't know what you do in medieval studies, or excuse my ignorance, but if the goal is something where you want to help people on your free will, what I'm asking you is, why couldn't you do that now? Who said that you needed the degrees to do what you want to do? I really want you to think about this. Who said, anybody, who said that you need the degree to do the thing you really want to do? How do you know that you needed the degree? Most people will say to me, oh, it'll carry more weight. People will think I'm more credible if I have the degrees. How do you know that's true? That's what I asked them. How do you know that's true? Who told you that? Tell me, point somewhere, or tell me about all the times that you asked people to work with you and they were like, oh, I can't work with you because you don't have a master's degree or a doctorate. That's for a lot of people. So I think the one who believes, I thank you for offering that. And please let me know what you're thinking, and I'll definitely revisit. But I really want to know, how do we know that we need any of these degrees and certifications? How do we know that? Who told us that? Is it the marketing department of the institution because they wanted to make money off of us? Or do we know explicitly that we need the degree to do the thing? If there are people who don't have a degree doing the thing, could it be that you don't need it yourself? And let me tell you where I learned this. I want to say it was my first or second year at the University of Georgia. The vice president of student affairs. Now, usually 9 times out of 10, that position requires a PhD or equivalent. It requires a terminal degree. But when the University of Georgia, the flagship institution of the state of Georgia, the one that everybody's saying that celebrities and government officials and where all the political things happen, when they hired a vice president of student affairs who did not have a terminal degree, it changed everything for me. It changed everything for me. I said, this is a hustle. We don't need this. These rules are all made up. He was able to do it. Here, a gay black man, and he don't got no terminal degree. It changed everything for me. If you don't understand the politics of Georgia in general, then that might not mean much to you. But in my brain, my flabbers were gasted. Do you hear me? I said, oh, I'm thinking about this all wrong. And so that just caused me to question a lot of do I need degrees, or they just told me that and I believed it. Okay, I see where you're going with this. I love it. I think that's the golden question. How do I know I need it? Absolutely. How do you know? I'll DM. I don't want to distract from your live. Okay, sounds good. I mean, listen, the way that ADHD is happening today, I could go back and forth. The question of my life. I don't need a degree because MPH is a terminal degree, yep, but I wanted to go in the director route and work in government, so I figured a PhD would make me more competitive. How many people do you know works like in the government sector that you want to work in? And how many of those people have terminal degrees? How many people do you know? How many people have you seen? What is your experience about what's required to get in that position? How many conversations have you had about how does one get into that role? The reason why I ask these questions a lot is because we're so smart. You're so smart. You had to figure out so much shit to get this far. I know I don't know you, and we're just talking through this screen here, but what I do know about the people who come into my world is you're so smart. You fought so hard. You had to constantly be thinking about, how do I accommodate this class, this system, this program to meet the way that I learn? And because you've been so smart at being able to do that, we get caught in a rhythm of that. And so then we start approaching everything as, I got to figure out how to I got to freak it to figure out how I can fit in. And if we're not careful, we start putting in extra rules that we don't need. And I don't know this for sure about the job, but you may be telling yourself that you need a degree that you don't need. And it's probably more like relationships, especially when we're talking about a government position. A lot in none, but also they're all white. All the black women, though, have advanced degrees. It's because we can't stop doing it. Now, there's real reasons historically why, right? Like black women are most educated. And I'm on a mission. Because right now I'm on TikTok just ranting and raving. I am on a mission to stop us from getting all of these degrees. Y'all can't tell. Let me take a sip of water. Hold on. I'm on a mission to stop us because why? If we built this entire, listen, I know I'm speaking. If we build this entire country without the advanced degrees, why we believe in their lies that we need their degrees? That's where my brain keeps coming back to. We built this shit. Why do I need your piece of paper to do something I've already done? My ancestors have already done. That make no sense. That made no sense to me. What if I just want a PhD to spite white folks? Now you talking. Keisha, it's Keisha, right? If it's not, tell me how to say your name. Now we talking. This is the only reason why I'm like, okay. Now people really? Yes. Because a petty reason is going to get you to the end. A petty reason is going to have you show up, pay attention to class, because you're looking for information so you can be petty, right? That means you're engaged, right? It's going to be like, oh, I'm going to do this research topic because you want to be petty. You're not going to get caught up in oh, what do they think about me? Do they think I'm good enough? Do they think I'm deserving? You're like, no, I'm trying to be petty. The way I was trolling everybody as a 3rd and 4th year student, because I started for my exams, for instance. Here's an example of how I was over it. For my preliminary exams, one of the questions was that we had to design a research study from start to finish that we thought we could possibly use for the dissertation. But y'all, I was so over it. I wasn't even sure I wanted to continue. So I choose a topic. I was like, oh, I'm going to study Black influencers on YouTube. Everybody was confused. Nobody knew what I was talking about. But they couldn't say, they couldn't mark me wrong or whatever, because they were like, you did technically do it right, but you're talking about all these things that we don't know. And I said, I know, I just like to be in a room with really smart people who think they know everything, but they don't know everything. And I like to talk about things and they get to be confused, so they can be uncomfortable, so they can remember how it feels to be a doc student in class for the first time, being confused about what's going on and no one will answer your questions, right? That might not be the pettiest thing that I could have done, but I just found joy wherever I could in this process. My point to you is, you're more likely to finish for a petty reason than you are because you're like, oh, I want to do research. Those people get stopped because they're going to learn that the system isn't what they thought it was. Getting this degree isn't what you thought it was. And when you hit against that reality and you realize, oh, it doesn't matter what I know. It doesn't matter how smart I am. It matters how people see me and who I have a relationship with. That is very disheartening. There's a lot of grief that comes with that, and it's hard to get yourself to finish a thing when you know the truth of it. Yeah. Listen, this is me. My chair was like, please get out. Please. She was so dumb with me. She's like, please get out this room. You get on my nerves. You better go finish your dissertation. She's like, you better go write your dissertation. It took me another 9 months to start, but whatever. I also see the need for more research at our intersection. Ooh, okay. I'm about to let this list go. I know I was supposed to say 10 things. I'm going to try to come back, but y'all got me going. Who needs the research? Who needs the research? Why do we need more research? Back up. Who are you trying to prove that to? Think about this. Academics mostly write for other academics. If only about 3% of the world holds a terminal degree or a doctor, and we say in order for work to be legitimate, it needs to be published in these fancy journals. Who's reading the journal? Other doctors, other academics. If your goal is to center those at the intersection of Black and disability, is it for them or is it for the Ivy Tower? Is it for academics? Who needs more research? What's the purpose of having more research? If you're saying, oh, I'm going to have more research and that's going to help people, how does you producing and publishing more research in academic journals directly help the people you want to center? Why do we have to go through the hoops of publishing in these academic spaces that the people we're talking about won't ever read? Not because I'm not trying to talk shit about the people. I'm saying they're most likely not going to go get the academic journal and read. I'm more likely to come to you and say, hey, what can you tell me about this topic? And I don't all the way know what your topic is. Let me use me. I'll volunteer as tribute. Right? So people will try to tell me, oh, we need more Black women in academia. And we definitely need more research around Black women in higher education. But my brain was like, but why? Because I can name you 10 people who are doing research about Black women and it ain't changing nothing. A big part of the research I do is around sexual violence on college campuses. You know what every introduction says? For the past 50 plus years, we've been saying 1 in 4 women, 1 in 9 men. We've been saying the same shit and yet nothing has changed. We've been doing research for over 50 years and yet nothing has changed. Could it be that the research part doesn't work anymore? Would it be more effective for me to build my own center and go directly to the people and help them? And even though, right, like just say I know the language of, because I have a PhD, if I want to go get funding for somebody with a grant, I know how to speak that language, but I don't need to publish anything in these journals that's going to sit there and collect dust just to say I published something if it's not helping the people. Now, I'm not trying to talk shit on you. I'm trying to give you a different perspective. I'm asking you, what is the goal for more research? Now, if you're going to tell me that the goal for more research is because you have a tenure track position or you're trying to get a particular grant in a particular association and you need to publish to do that, okay. If you're saying that I know that if I do this research, I can work with these companies and they're going to use it, they're paying me to do this research, okay. But if you're saying if I put it out there and the people will read it and they will understand, have they? Have they yet? I ain't gonna say they're not, but have they? What I'm aiming to do is research to bring resources to underserved and marginalized groups. I basically proved my own point, then go do the work. And I'm asking you, why do you need to prove the point instead of go do the work? If you're already doing the work, wouldn't a better use of your brilliance and your expertise be going to find people who can directly help you solve the problem for the people in front of you? A lot of times we get caught up in being like, how do I solve this problem on a theoretical level? Instead of being like, there are 100 people in front of me who I could directly help. The way I was like, I mean, I know this dissertation is dope. It's amazing. I'm not about to play your academic game. I'm not about to go sit up and be somebody's tenure track. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go build a company called Quad Scholars where I get to help hundreds and thousands of people every day directly without having to go through your hoops of your academic journals, without having to be at somebody's institution and do everything they tell me to do. I get to go directly right now on a Wednesday night. I get to talk directly to you We did not know each other before then, and now I am talking to you, and I get to help you. You get to ask me your questions, and I get to tell you. You don't have to go read about it in a journal. I mean, you can go look me up, but you don't have to. I get to talk directly to you. And I know what I'm saying, y'all, is hard, because a lot of how you're socialized in academia is to attach your worth and your identity to what you have published, the grants you have earned, and whose research team you're on. But that's just the world of academia. That's only 3% of the world's population. What about the 97% of other people? What about the people who are like, just tell it to me straight. Stop using your little $1 million words and tell me what I need to do. But then that means that you will have to do the work of unlearning how you've been socialized. You have to do the work of like separating and believing that you are valuable and worthy and deserving of somebody helping you and being with you and saying that you are amazing, like you are worth that just because you exist. Like you would have to do the hard work to see that your worth is not tied up in some degree. And that is a hard thing to do. I'm confused. Is the mission to attain a doctoral degree? It is if you're already in the program, but you might not have been here in the beginning when I said, like, if people came to me and they were saying, should I apply to a program? I'm going to tell you no, unless you have a very clear reason as to why you need it. Unless you can tell me directly why you getting this degree helps you in your next step. If you don't have an explicit tie, then there's no point to get this degree. You're doing it for vanity's sake. And I'm all for vanity and petty reasons, but I want you to be honest with yourself. Okay? This is what they mean when they say, what is your why? Yes, this is exactly, I don't know what other people mean. This is what I mean. Because if you don't know why you're doing this, y'all, to go through this process can be very traumatic. I'm not saying it's traumatic for everyone, but if you are someone who's operating with a lot of minoritized identities, it's going to be traumatic because the system wasn't built for you. And so now you have to conform and mold and like bend and shape yourself and to fit into this box that they want you to fit in, which is fine. We do this every day in different spaces. What I want you to consider is it worth contorting yourself to be in this academic box? Is whatever your next goal or what your long-term goal is it worth you doing this? Is what I'm asking you. If you're already in, let's finish. And let's finish what is the least amount of harm being done to you as possible. That's where I'm coming from. Because what I see on a regular basis, y'all, the students I talk to, conversations I'm actively in right now in the DMs, the stories. Because I went into this doc program, now I have this long-term illness. Now I'm over here trying to grieve the loss of loved ones, and people keep telling me that I just need to let it go and just keep focusing on my writing. And the harm, the isolation that causes. Yeah, I put my all into this doc program, but now I'm not even the same version of me I was 3 years ago. Like, I can't even function the same. My body doesn't even work the same. My anxiety, my depression is off the charts. By the time I got to my dissertation process, I was going to a psychiatrist twice a month. I was going to my therapist once or twice a week. I was at physical therapy because I was too much like writing, trying to fix my muscles. What else I was going to? I had to go to like a reproductive specialist because my hormones got all out of whack. And don't even get me started on like just the constant burnout and the isolation. Am I saying that everybody's experience is this way? No. But I'm saying because I did not understand what I was signing up for, and because I didn't realize that when people sign up for a doctoral program, they have all these layers of support that I didn't even know I was supposed to have, that's why the program was so hard and it took a toll on my body. And that's damage that I can't reverse. And it's because I didn't know. Because I didn't have somebody telling me, hey, back up for a minute and ask yourself, why are you doing this? Why are you working so hard? And no way am I telling you not to work hard. I'm just saying, why? Why are you doing it? Know your reason. Because when 4 years, 10 years from now, when you're still dealing with the consequences of doing something as challenging as becoming a doctor, you're going to need to know, you're going to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, this is why I did it. And if you don't have a clear answer, regret will set in. and you'll be looking back and people will see you as bitter and angry or whatever. You'll see yourself as that way because you don't have a clear why. That's all. So thank y'all. I'm thinking of applying in the final year of my master's. I needed this talk. Yeah. And so if you are, right, I'm just asking you why. And you have time to think about that. And you have time to map it out, because what you might find is, oh, I thought I needed it, but I don't. Okay, one of my favorite people in the world, Eric Thomas. Do y'all know who Eric Thomas is? The best motivational speaker in the world. He got a PhD from, was it Michigan State University or University of Michigan? One of them. He got a PhD as a motivational speaker. If you look up Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Now, it is a black man yelling, so if that's triggering, then don't go look him up. But I love me some Eric Thomas. Every day of my doc process, I watched one of his videos. Even this morning, he's in my ears. It just speaks to me. But he said that he was already getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to speak. But the reason why he went to go get a PhD is because he wanted to learn the language of corporate. He wanted to learn the language of academia so that he can start to take them on as clients and not be so ignorant. And part of it was, he said he felt like an imposter. He felt insecure when he would walk into these boardrooms and he felt like he didn't belong. So those were his reasons for going to get a PhD. I'm not judging his reason. I'm not going to judge your reasons, but it's because he knew why he was doing it is why he made it through. Why are you doing it? For me, I got stuck because I didn't know why I was doing it. I originally signed up for a doc program because I just like learning. I'm like, oh, it's school. But I had no concept of what it meant to go get a PhD. Nobody explained it to me. They just said it was a good thing to do, but they didn't say like what it's going to involve and what it meant. They just assumed that I would know. But how would I know a thing that no one has ever taught me? How would you know something if no one has ever taught you? So I like having this conversation. Okay, let me recap, because I was originally going through, my list of 10. So 10 things. Number 1 was you don't have to do all the reading. Just pick 2 or 3 or a few that you're going to focus on and skim the rest, which is number 2. How you skim is that you read the abstract, you read the introduction, you read the headers, you read the last paragraphs, and then you're just trying to find 2 or 3 points that you can contribute to discussion or the literature. Number 3, meet or communicate with your advisor or your chair at least once a month. Tell them what's going on with you. Tell them what you are finding interesting. Tell them any questions that you maybe have or points that you might be confused about. This is to help you to establish your relationships, because in academia, you are judged by your perception and your relationships. You are not judged by what you know. Number 4 was to have a 10-hour schedule. What are 10 hours you're going to dedicate to your doctoral work in 10 hours? And you make number 5, you make a weekly plan for your lazy version of yourself. So make the plan for the version of you that is tired on Thursday night and who doesn't want to show up and who doesn't want to do anything. What is a plan that they could do? Because usually we make plans like, it doesn't matter if I want to do it, I just need to get up and do it. That's the quickest way to not do anything. Number 6, we have something called the Scholar Basics that we follow in Qual Scholars. And you need to have energy and motivation to do your work. Most people think about, well, I have a plan, I have a schedule, I have a writing group, but you don't think about your physical body. What does your physical body mean? So what we do are these 5 habits every day. The first one is to drink at least 64 ounces of water, which is why I have a cup. 64 ounces of water. Number 2 is to go sleep or lay down for at least 7 hours a day or night. Number 3, journal for 10 minutes. Empty out your brain. Just empty out all the raw, unfiltered thoughts onto a page. Number 4, move your body for 10 minutes. Remember I said I was in physical therapy? It's because I wasn't moving. Go walk, go stretch, go do some yoga. And then 5, write a shitty paragraph a day. If you were doing those things, the Scholar Basics every day, you would feel good, you would be hydrated, you'll be able to think clearly, and you will get yourself in motion, which would make it easier for you to do the rest of the things on your to-do list. So find a way to take care of your basic needs. we tend to bypass that in academia because we're so focused on, let me do the work, I got so much to do, that you forget you are a person with needs. So the headers are like, does this book have headers? It's not an academic book, so let me see. I might have to go find an academic book. So, okay, in this book, right, you see how they have these like headers, like at different sections. You just want to read that. Because especially if they're long-term academic, but anybody who's doing academic writing, your headers are supposed to communicate what's in that section. And so if I have an idea of what each section is about, I can get a sense of what the entire chapter or manuscript is about. Let me know if that makes sense or if I need to use a different example, because I can go get another book or article or something if that isn't clear. All right, number 7, join a writing group or a community. I don't care if you're not at the dissertation phase. I've always been in a group from my first year, which again was why I was confused why I was on academic probation. But go join a group, because if you can get stuck in your mind, but when you are a part of a group, they hold you accountable in a different way. The group becomes a mirror for you. I remember this one, I was like, I was trying to write my chapter 5, and it was so painful. So I went to go join a different writing group. Now I was used to being in writing groups where you talk at the first 30 minutes, y'all go back and forth, y'all catch up, and then you go do writing. But this new group, they were like, okay, everybody's here. All right, hit. And then they instantly put headphones on and they started writing. I was like, wait, where's the check-in? They're like, we don't do that here. Get to work. But what that mirrored for me was like, oh, this is a different level of seriousness. Like, I've been playing around. I've been wasting time. Let me get to work. And by being in that writing group, I was able to show up in a different way that I didn't before, because the other groups were more about socializing than they were about the work. This group was about the work, and socializing happened afterwards. When you are in different communities, they're going to mirror different things to you, and it's going to teach you a lot about who you are. So right now, people are listening. They're about to wrap up a co-writing call inside of Qual Scholars. That community is keeping them on track every week to make sure that they are putting words on a page. So please join one. Number 8, take off at least 24 hours every week. Look at me. When I say take off, that doesn't mean like, oh, on the paper it says I'm going to take off, but I'm going to do some more reading. No, you're going to not touch your laptop, a book, an article, a nothing for 24 hours. This is not going to be fun. Again, keep looking at me. It's not going to be fun. I know people are like, oh, you take a break. It's self-care. It's going to be fun. No, it's going to feel like ass. Let me tell you what it's going to feel like, especially if you're not used to taking time away. When you, like your first probably 3 to 4 months of taking a day off every week, it's going to feel like, oh, but I could read something. But if I read, or if I look at my emails, then I'll be caught up on Monday. Then there'll be less work for me. Like, your brain is going to try to tell you every single thing to get you to work. But if you can trust this process, after a while, you'll start to realize, wait a minute, I'm able to do more work when I take a break. So in 2020, the business was starting to really take off, but I was also a postdoc. And so I was really working like 70, 80 hours a week between both things. And I was forced to start taking a break. I would take off Saturdays. The first 2-3 months on Saturdays, I thought I was having withdrawal from like drugs or something. My skin was itching. I kept looking at my laptop. I found myself picking up my phone and going to the email app. I spent more time putting my phone down, trying to walk out my apartment, trying to distract myself, because all I wanted to do was work, because my brain, there was a voice that told me, if you don't work, you're going to get behind. And then you're going to mess up everything. But I knew that if I didn't take a break, I wasn't going to have anything. I was going to burn completely out. And I'm so glad that I was willing to do that work and fight with myself back and forth. Because what I started to notice was, on the weeks that I fully took the 24-hour period of away from working, the amount that I was able to produce, my brain said, wait a minute, I like this. I don't like the break part, but I like the outcome. I'm going to keep doing it. Many people hear me and they hear the 10-hour weekly schedule and they hear take time off and they think that means I don't work. And I'm like, I will work you under the table. Okay, friend, let's spend a day together and let's see who's really working. But what I've learned is that if I want to work at the level that I want to work at, I have to take care of my body. I have to take care of me. And people don't explain to you what it means to take care of you, which is why we do the Scholar Basics, and it's why you need to take off a day a week. Think about athletes. I love me some Kobe Bryant, okay? Mamba mentality. But when he would describe his schedule when he was practicing, I think he would wake up at 4 o'clock. He would go practice. He would do that for 2 or 3 hours. He would come home. He would eat. He would go to sleep. He would get back up around 7 or 8, go to another practice or workout, do that for a couple of hours, come back home, eat, go to sleep, spend time with the family. And then in the afternoon, he would go back and work out for another few hours, come home, repeat, go to sleep, and repeat the next day. But the average basketball player will wake up around 10, 11, go work out for 2 or 3 hours, and then they're done for the day. Now, that's fine in the moment. It's like, okay, well, you got more of your time. But when it's time to show up at the basketball game, when it's time to like go all in for the playoffs, this is why he was the number one player and they were not. Because he had more reps, he had more practice, he had more conditioning. And it's because he worked out more, but he also took more breaks. Whereas they were working now, kind of breaks, but it wasn't helping. He was able to work at a high level. And the reason why he was able to sustain it was because he took care of his body. So I hope that analogy is making sense. Okay, number 9. Please find a way to participate on a research team. Before you get to your exams, before you get to your dissertation, find a way to participate on somebody's research. That could be, hey, can I help you write this literature review for this grant? That can be, can I help you collect data? Can I just watch you work? So what I went to, she was not my chair at the time, but she was a faculty that I was like, she seems approachable. And so I went to who ended up being my chair. I said, I don't know the right way to ask you this, but I really want to learn more about research. Is there anything that I can help you to do so that I can learn more about research? And she said, oh, actually, I'm forming a research team about sexual violence. Do you want to come and help us? Yes. And me being on that team for 2 years before I even did any of my own research, that taught me everything I needed to know about qualitative research. So by the time it came to my exams and my dissertation, that's why I could be petty and make a little joke about it because I already knew. By the time I got into my qualitative courses, I was like, I know this already because I've been doing it. Because I have real world experience. And my dissertation didn't throw me off because I already had experience of conducting research. When you go find a team or anybody like a faculty, like find somebody who's trying to work towards tenure because they're going to take the help. They want any free help. They will let you do all the things. Go get you, if you can swing the time and the energy, please go get some experience because it'll help. Okay. And then number 10, do something with a person who has no connection to higher education, to your field of study. Do something with someone outside of that at least once a month. What that's going to do is to remind you that you are more than this academic world. That there's people and problems and events and happiness that exist outside of academia. If you're not careful, if you don't ever step out the bubble, then you start thinking that everybody in the world is called doctor. Everybody is accomplished. Everybody is doing big things. No, you just haven't stepped out the bubble long enough to realize that's a very small group of people. And yes, I will make a post with this list. That's a very small group of people. If you want to maintain your sanity and your health, go find somebody who don't need know nothing about this. Mine was like a childhood friend. I would either call him or we would go somewhere and he would remind me who I was. He would remind me of that version of me who decided at 10 years old that she wanted to go all the way to school. He would remind me of all my goals that were outside of academia. Are folks working full-time jobs? Well, yes, they are. I have a lot of clients who are working full-time jobs. They got toddlers at home. It's making me think about Camille. She's the first one who came to my mind. Camille she has, I think the baby is 3 years old, or she's 2 or 3. She's pregnant. She's 8 months pregnant. She has a full-time job with Netflix where she has to travel most days out of the week. And yep, she is in the middle of her dissertation. She's a full-time student. She was full-time the entire time. I'm thinking about a friend who recommended her. That friend works full-time, has a 12-year-old, just had a newborn, and is doing this process full-time. Yeah, it's wild out here. It's wild out here. Most people that I work with work full-time. And they're trying, which is why I say a 10-hour schedule, because we don't have time for all the other stuff. When you're working full time and you got family and you got all of these other commitments, you can't spend endless amount of hours in the library just reading stuff because you just want to read it. You got to be very decisive with your time. Please, you can go watch her stories. I'll try to tag her in here, but she's showing the behind the scenes of her working on her proposal and getting ready for her proposal defense. So she tells people this is my pregnancy update. This is my dissertation update. But yeah, she would appreciate you putting her on the prayers list. Okay, y'all, those are my 10 items. Any other questions that folks have? I'm a K-12 teacher, but I will find the time. It worries me. But how else will it get done? So I have learned by doing this business that I am a teacher whisperer. I wasn't expecting that. I did want to be I wanted to be a secondary teacher, science, hard science. By the time I did all the courses, and then I got to student teaching. I'm from Chicago. And so when I went into my first school, and every teacher made it a point to come up to me to be like, oh, it's so hard to be a teacher. These kids, they come from these poor backgrounds. They just don't care. They're not up to par. And I started taking it personal because I'm like, I'm from the same place they are. We from the same neighborhoods. If you talking shit about them, you talking shit about me. Why are you doing all of this? And it was the whole thing of no child left behind. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to cut somebody out if I stay here. Let me go teach college. Because I was like, I want to teach people. I don't want to teach a standardized test. Now, if I had a different mentoring situation, that probably would have changed, but I didn't have that. And so I was like, yeah, this ain't going to be for me. And people were like, oh, was it because of the students? I'm like, no, I actually like them. That's my jam. The tougher, the better. No, it's the teachers. I don't want to do that. I want to do that part. I'm in history and I'm from the South Side. Yes. Tell me where. Listen, I've been trying to, I'm like, you do not need to go back home. You need to stay in Georgia with the sunshine. You don't need to go back home. I'm a full-time administrator who struggles to find time to write. What are you working on for writing, Michelle? So let me know, what are you working on? What exactly do you want to accomplish in the next 30 days, let's say? When it comes to your writing, what would be ideal for you to accomplish? I'm just going to start with the literature review because most people start there. Okay, most 79th and State. Yes, went to Morgan Park. My mom went to Morgan Park. That is so interesting. I'm like, girl, I don't know how we got to the west side, but we did, girl. You definitely grew up on the south side. And now she's back on the south side. She's back in Oakland. But I don't need to go back. It's what I'm trying to remind myself. Okay, so Michelle, let's say you are working on a literature review and you want to have it done. My rule is that we work on one chapter a month. Your job is to complete a full version of a chapter of your dissertation every 30 days. If you're not actively writing, your job then is to do something like collect all your data or analyze all your data in a 30-day period. Now, some of you are like, now, girl, you said you only work 10 hours a week and you want me to do that in 30 days? Yes. Because if you are making a plan that tells you to put words on a page in a very clear way, a results-driven way, it should be easy for you to then show up and write. So what I find is that most people are trying to just work on general of their literature review, but they don't know exactly, these are the sections I'm going to produce today. These are the sections I'm going to produce by the end of the week. These are the sections I'm going to produce by the end of the month. And because you're not having that level of detail with your plan, what happens is that you show up to your writing session and you're trying to get yourself organized. So then you go try to read, okay, what was the last thing I wrote last time? And so you read that and you're like, well, that's confusing. And you're like, maybe if I go read, it'll jog my memory. So then you try to go find that dissertation that you read about 2 months ago that was perfectly summing up the part that you're working on. You go read that dissertation and it's like, oh, but what about this article? And then you start reading the article. 3 hours have passed. You haven't written anything. And so now you're tired because you spent all day at work dealing with people, arguing with them, going back and forth. And now you're trying to use whatever energy left over to read, but you just used it all up to write, but you just used it all up to read. You don't have any energy left over. And you do that process over and over. And that is why you're having a hard time finding the time to write. But I don't know if that's true, Michelle. So you'll have to let me know if that was anything close to your experience. But that is what I usually hear from students. It's hard to find time to write when you don't know what you're doing. You don't know. And if you do put words on a page, you don't know if you're doing that right. You don't know if those words are going to be good enough for your chair to say you can move forward. Okay, yeah, I made up a whole story because I was just, trying to get time. Okay, I actually have 4 chapters done, but finishing the race has been tough. Do you recommend writing a little bit every day or carve out? Michelle, none of that. Why? Why do you want to finish this? Like, why would you put yourself through this pain of trying to finish these last chapters? Why would you do this? What's the why? Why are we doing this? I get it. You I want to be finished. I'm sure you're going to say something like that. I want to be finished. But what happens after you're finished? Why are you doing this? What I find is that when students get to the point where they have 4 more chapters, depending on your dissertation format, when you're getting to the end of the dissertation, if you're having a hard time, writer's block, or you don't have the time to write, it's not about the writing. It's about your nervous system. It's like, why would we finish something when we don't know what comes next? The back of your brain that's responsible for your habits and regulation, that part of your brain needs an emotional reason to do a thing. It does not understand the language of logic. You cannot reason with that part of you. You have to emotionally say, this is why we're doing the thing. How we emotionally say we're doing it is, when you graduate, you're going to have XYZ job. When you graduate, you're going to be able to tell so-and-so they can kiss your ass, right? What is the reason that you're putting yourself through this? When you are clear, you'll show up, you'll find the time. Let me give it to you like this. Here's an example. If Beyonce said, girl, if you do all your work this week, if you can get all your work done by Friday, you can go to you can go to Japan with me. If that's what Beyonce said, and I looked at her and I believe that she's going to come get me on Friday if I finish all of my work, guess what happens by Friday? I'm going to finish all the work by tomorrow. In fact, I'm going to stay up all night to finish it, to ensure that by Friday when she's coming to get me, I'm by the curb, I got my bags, I got on my Renaissance shirt, I'm ready, girl. That's what I'm asking you to do, Michelle. What is the reason that you want to finish this? Because if you are clear that, by finishing this dissertation, it's going to lead me here and I really want to do that, you're going to find the time and the energy. This is a motivation thing. It's a motivation thing more than it's you can't find the physical time. Let me know your thoughts about that though. I have my defense coming up and I'm blanking on how to put hundreds of pages into a 20-minute presentation. If you're still here, okay, remember that you're at the final defense. I'm assuming you're at the final defense. That people are coming to hear the good doctor. They see you as a doctor already. And so think about it as like, if you were going to go to a conference or like a poster presentation, you're thinking about it as an elevator pitch, right? Because people don't want to know all the nooks and crannies of your research. They want to know the highlights. Even in your defense, especially since you only have 20 minutes, it's about the highlights. So what I tell people to do is you have one slide. The first slide is like, okay, tell us the setup of the project. So what was the problem? What was the purpose? What were your questions? Slide number 2 then is give us like 3 to 5 highlights from the literature that we need to know. Since it's your final defense, you may just use that slide to talk about your conceptual or your theoretical framework. Like, I use this, I use these points, this is how I map the data. The rest of your slides then are, what were the major findings? So what were the 3, and I'm going to assume that it's qualitative, so I'm going to use this as an example. So let's say the third slide is, here are my major themes. I found this, I found this, I found this, or it could also be, these were my participants. Sometimes people want to know who the participants are. So the slide 3 could be your participants, like a table of, here are their pseudonyms, here's some demographic information about them. Slide 4 then is, here are my 3 to 5 themes overall, and I'm going to cover each one of them. So every slide afterwards is that you're going to cover the major theme, and you're going to have a quote from maybe a participant or whatever your data is. You're going to do that for all of the major themes, and then your final slides, the final 2 slides should list, here's what this means. So now that you know what the themes are, here's what this means for us. This is what we should do with this information. That's like 3 to 5 points of like the implications, what we should do. The last slide is, here are my recommendations for practice and research. And then what questions do you have? Even in how I outline that, you need to practice, because that 20 minutes will go by very quickly, which is why you only have 1 or 2 slides for, here's the setup of the study and here's the literature, because you want to reserve as much of that 20 minutes for talking about the actual data and what it means and what we should do as a result. So let me know if that's helpful. But I say practice it, because you will be nervous and your brain will want to say, but I did all this work and I have all these pages. I need to put all these details, and this was 20 minutes. And you want to let them ask you questions. Most of the time, the committee are going to ask you questions based on what you put on the slides. The more information you give them, the more ammo you give them to ask you questions about things that, not to say that it doesn't matter about the research, but it doesn't matter for the purposes of the dissertation defense. The dissertation defense is, how do you present? The goal of it is, can you present something that you've done, that you spent time on? Can you present it in a confident and clear way? That's what they want to know. So, okay, awesome. Okay. And Michelle, I don't know if you're still here, but all right, y'all. If you have more questions, let me know. If you want to learn more about the Finish Your Dissertation program, you can put FYD in the chat. If you're like, girl, do you have something else? I'm not quite at the dissertation phase. At the end of this month, so what is that? Saturday, August 31st, Sunday, September 1st, we're going to be having our monthly writing retreat. It's called 10 pages in 2 days. You're going to write 10 pages in 2 days. It's $25. And people love it. They get so much done. But if you like, no, girl, I need some more ongoing help, put FYD in the chat, and I will send you more information, a whole video about what's included in the program. I won't be hounding you. You don't have to worry about me making you give me a decision. It's just video information. Plus, you can join us tomorrow if you want to see how a call goes, because I would rather you make an informed decision about joining us, because I'm going to ask you to work and I want to make sure you're on board before you say yes. Okay, what if you are in the dissertation phase but close to the end, like a 2-month turnaround phase? If you still put FYD in, that I opened back up the monthly payment plan, so you should get that. And in case you want to go look at it now, it's Qual Scholars, and I don't know why I can't do this, because it's qualscholars.com/the institute. I'm gonna put it in the chat if my phone allows me to. I wish there was a easier way. If you want to go look at what's in the program and what's offered in the payment plan, because there is one. Okay. I know you can't click on that, but at least you can see it to put it in your browser. But you can also DM me if it's not working for you. Okay, y'all, I am going to go start my night routine so I can get to sleep at a decent time and see what they're talking about in this DNC, whatever. And I will talk to y'all tomorrow, okay? Good night, y'all.